Hi everyone. Today I wanted to share some thoughts on the Motherland tour. And if you don't know what Motherland trip means, it's just going back to your country of origin. So I am a Korean adoptee. At the age of 29 years old, I went back to South Korea, my country of birth. My reason for going was literally to just check it off the list. I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do the birth family search before my husband and I tried to start our own family. So it was a very unemotional, black and white reason for doing it. But I wanted to share some things that I learned and realizations that I guess the superficial sense of belonging and how much that would mean to me. So obviously I knew I was going to Korea. I knew I'm Korean and I was going to be surrounded by Korean people. But even with all that knowledge going into it, like stepping off the plane, like at Incheon, I had an immediate sense of like peace, like calm, being surrounded by people, like everyone around me who looked like me. And I was one in the crowd for like the first time like in my life. I did my university in New York City. So diversity is one thing, but for everyone to look like you is another. And I think I don't know, I would often find myself having like reality checks. Like we'd be just sitting in a coffee shop or like at a restaurant, and I would just like look around and like think like whoa, like everyone here looks like me. Like it was so mind-blowing, even though it's like not. For someone like my husband, it's like their normal life, like every day. I was like so in awe of that. It was so weird. So anyway, I guess I like underestimated the power that was going to hold for me, and how good that was gonna feel on a surface level to just look like you belong. Yes. I guess something that surprised me that I didn't realize, going back, how much it meant to me. And it's something that I could have never known before the trip. Or maybe it meant so much more than I could have admitted to myself at the time. Yeah, it was like seeing and experiencing a culture and language that I will never be a part of. But, you know, there were definitely these moments of I had that sense of belonging. And that's not like a feeling that I often had in the States. Like growing up, tolerance is not the same as belonging. It meant a lot to me, like the trip, and it turned out to mean so much more than I could have ever imagined. So next realization, or next thing that kind of surprised me, was being there made me sad. A different kind of sad being Korean than I'd ever experienced growing up. I'd only experienced racial negativity, like being Asian in a white world. But this sadness was like really a sense of loss. Being in Korea, I knew kind of once and for all that I would never truly fit in there either. And, you know, you can look the part in passing, but, you know, with any kind of interaction I had with anybody, shopkeepers, waiters, hotel staff, like they knew right away that I was American without me even saying anything, honestly. Like they would just switch into English mode and help me with whatever I needed. And I guess like through all of the adversity, like growing up in America, you know, maybe I had in the back of my mind somewhere that I could always just go back to Korea and feel normal and feel like I fit in. And I guess this trip was kind of like confirmation that it's like really not the case. Like in a fantasy world, almost like picturing myself speaking Korean and just being able to answer or respond to somebody in Korean, and like that would have been like such an amazing thing for me. But obviously everybody just looking at me like in passing would have just assumed I did know Korean, and it was, I don't know. So yeah, it was there were definitely moments of sad, and I guess I wasn't expecting that. The biggest reaffirming realization I had was that nobody can really understand all of this, like these feelings of loss, like that I was having, like, you know, being immersed in a country and culture where you look the part, but which you really like share no part in. You know, I believe like only transracial adoptees would have a chance of understanding the complexity of like all the emotions that go on during this kind of trip. Like not my husband, not my adoptive parents, not my birth parents or my birth sisters, like none of that. Like you can have the best intentions in the world, you just can't understand it, and it's isolating. Like seeing my birth country like further solidified like who I was then, and, you know, more importantly, like who I am today. Reflecting back on this trip and, you know, putting all this stuff together, you know, being a transracial adoptee, and I'm learning so much, like, honestly, more and more every day about being an adoptee, which is like crazy, right? Because I've been that my whole life. But yeah, it's messy and it's complicated, and not all adoptees have the same experiences, obviously, or like the same views on the world or adoption related topics. So I returned to South Korea to like simply check it off my life to-do list, but the realizations and like clarity of identity I gained from that trip was so much more than I could have ever expected. And it's such a gift to have been able to go back. The time spent in my birth country was, you know, it was everything. It was happy and sad and fulfilling in so many ways, but like draining in so many other ways, and full of moments of clarity. But then, like, you know, 10 minutes later it could be like added confusion. So it was all of that. And what I will say, and what I want to mention, which I'll probably will get a lot of hate for, but anybody who's searching for their birth families and not having any luck, and they feel like there's a part of them that's missing, and like that maybe the world is going to make sense once they find them and once they're reunited and all of that, I just want to tell that person. And obviously, and I know people are going to say like, oh, it's easy coming from you. You found your birth family, and like, who are you to say? But yeah, for me, like, I feel like I can say it because I did live this and I did find my birth family. And you know what? Like, it didn't change a whole heck of a lot, like in the long run. My next video after this is probably going to be on meeting my birth family. But like, yeah, I want to tell those adoptees who are searching and like almost putting your life on hold. Like, you just have so much expectation for this life transaction, for this moment, for like this reunion. I get that people want this, they feel like it's like a missing part of them, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it doesn't define who you are. And even though I did meet my birth family and I have a relationship with them now of sorts, like, it really doesn't change. It didn't change my identity at all. I would just hate for other adoptees to like feel lost for not having found them or for not being able to find them. And my best advice would be like, go back to your country of origin, go back to your birth country, and just walk the streets, sit in coffee shops, like browse stores, be surrounded by people who look like you. The birth family stuff for me was not as meaningful as going back. And I can honestly say I went into this with pretty much zero expectation. I didn't expect them to be found. I didn't expect this trip to mean much to me at all, honestly. Up until then, I had very little interest, if any, in Korean or Asian anything. I was still like at a point in my life where I didn't want to touch any of that with a 10-foot pole. But I was also at a point in my life, I was 29 years old. My husband and I had been married for 5 years at the time. And yeah, we were getting ready to start a family, and I didn't want this to be like a moment of regret. So book the trip, check it off my list, and I will say, going through the birth family search, being reunited, and going back to Korea, of those three things, the most important, the biggest life-changing one for me was just going back. So for anyone searching, don't put a lot of weight on the birth family reunion. Great if you find them, great if it's everything that you ever imagined. It might be setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment and letdown, even if you do find them. These are just my thoughts, obviously just my opinions. I am one person. I do not speak for the whole adoptee community, so I cannot possibly cover every adoptee's experiences here. This is going to be a long video, longer than I intended, as always. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, and I will see you in my next video.